just saying, we'll make this more conversation now. I've got a smaller room, right? Let's just be friendly. And this is a community session. I just work for somewhere and we've been doing some cool stuff. So it's easier. That's the sort of group that I want to be speaking to these sorts of things. Vendors are great, but I don't need a vendor telling me that my tool is the best, because that's what they all do. So my name is Macaulay. I'm an Endpoint Management Solutions Architect and I work at the University of Edinburgh. My background is actually financial services. I've only just went public sector recently. Yes, I've had a few, that was a dodgy move, but actually better payers. Yeah. And I know I've got a really strong Scottish accent, so if anybody needs me to slow down or stop, just say it's really difficult.
I've known him long enough I can interpret, so
there will be translations on the video after.
This guy's easy to understand than yourself, you know.
Yeah, so hopefully, if you're here this morning, you're receiving some evidence from on this. Being very open and honest. Clearly, we have a product in the DEX space, but we're talking more generically about the challenges and how they overcome. So everything we're talking about, we're trying to position it very much as there are lots of products out there. They all do a very similar thing. Let's look at the challenges and some of the fixes, and also some of the pitfalls we've seen on the way, some of the sort of lessons learned. Some of the screenshots in there from a demo environment. That environment does have a lot of test customers in it, so it's kind of real-world data, but it's not from a real-world deployment. So it is, like I say, it's real-world data. It's not simulated or anything like that. As I say, we are trying to keep this generic as possible, and like I say, any questions on the way, please just chip in.
Cracking. So, core issue that we're going to be looking at today is success doesn't mean healthy. You know, we're all EUC admins, right? A lot of the time we spend, especially now, I don't think there's ever been such a rapid change. Business needs you to deploy every 2 seconds. We've got vulnerabilities, we've got patches, we've got OS updates, we've got an app update, we've got different types of app updates. And we really struggle to look at, all we see is deployment's 97% successful or 100% successful, and does it have a user impact on the face? Have they had to click a button? Have they had to do something? If that's no, then we all kind of go, cool, my job's done and we go to the pub. Right? That's not what success means. Right? We all work in end user computing, and I think what we all seem to forget is the key word there is the end user. So rather than monitoring the deployment, we should be monitoring the success and the impact to the user. I see user experience. Put that in bold to look really fancy. And really the impact of that, I mean, this feels very corporate crap because this is how I try to talk to people about debt. But I think these are really, really important things to talk about. You know, the extra boot time, there was actually, we covered it later on, use case where my previous login time was 7 minutes long. If you tell me you can't sell somebody a solution to fix that, then that's pretty poor. Dissatisfaction, we've all been in a situation where we've had a manager come to us and they've not been able to pass the process, they've raised the ticket with the service desk. 3 weeks later, they go to their boss comes to your boss, you get asked to have a look at it as somebody that, third line, and you go, get lost, you with the idea, go through the correct process. That happens because we're not fixing problems before they come up, or because you don't have a real way for service desks in first line and second line to troubleshoot things effectively. Which leads on to, you know, higher ticket volumes. How many people here have a first or second line team that if somebody came up with a performance problem would actually be able to sit down and do some comprehensible troubleshooting? I don't think many people could really say that. Yeah, exactly. We're going to hit you. Yeah. You get your first line team and they ping you going, how the hell did I do this again? So I think that makes it difficult. I think that starts to justify this space an awful lot more. And that's why the solution is digital employee experience. This has become much bigger. Lots of vendors today have already spoken about this and given small updates and flavours. There's lots of flavours in the markets. You know, Control Up for the really big one. Zscaler have just brought out their own offering, much less known. Next thing who are sort of throwing around quite a lot in this market just now. HP have just brought up their own new offering in the platform. I think it's interesting. Does anybody use any DEX solutions that the company's now? No. Oh, it's no one using any of these guys.
Zscaler.
Zscaler,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming not for DEX purposes.
I'm just about to do a business case for DEX.
Okay.
Primary one on there will be Control Up, but
So is that physical devices, which is virtual? Or?
primarily physical.
Okay. So typically Windows.
But the downside is the customer's also been, dare I say, brainwashed by HP. Here, look at our,
So's he.
yeah. But yeah, here's a 500 device license to do a proof of concept.
Right.
From HP, that's the...
Yeah.
So, I mean, and obviously I shouldn't say because we're a work about, but that's exactly done to us. They give you the basic license, they don't give you Pro, and it's one of these really simple cons of Pro is basically needed to do absolutely anything other than the bare minimum.
Whereas Control Up have offered us 50 full-blown licenses that does everything.
Yeah, but that's a difficult trade-off because we covered it later on, but a lot of the data that you start to ingest and the ways that you start using that is by big numbers create a much better picture. As simply, the more data you have, the more use you're going to get out of these tools. 50 is probably not enough to really see the impact you're going to have across a whole estate. Great for troubleshooting individual issues, but not across a whole estate. Whereas, as the HP know as well, they offered us, they give you the Pro license as part of their, we'll work with you for a month to get the use case up. But again, your 1,000 free will be on standard. So your proof of concept is actually not, I'm sure you're intelligent enough to ask those questions, but be careful because they offered us and said, we'll give you the month's one, but we'll give you that at Pro, but anything we give you for the rest of the year will only be at standard, which, you compare two things that are not particularly relevant. Again, I think the whole reason I submitted this one I think was really useful is because I've been lucky to work with quite a few companies now and work with a lot of these people. So I've done a POC on Z-Scaler's DEX solution. I won't give any opinions on any of these things. I worked with Control Up for a year. I worked with Intelligence and Dean, which is on this solution, and I'm currently in the middle of working with HP as well. So I do think, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to gear anybody into one direction. It's really important because I've worked with lots of them and seen and been able to compare a lot of them. The key concept is the why, right? We've all seen lots of problems in our states, we all see things. Got an update last week and our machine's rubbish. It's not like it used to be. It's not the same since Windows 11 was installed. I'm imagining all things that you guys are going, yeah, I've heard that before. Application seems slow. Does the user even use the software? We're looking at all this time we spend investment trying to troubleshoot something. How many people are using this? And we spoke earlier about prioritising from off the section this morning. How do you prioritise workload if you don't understand what you're measuring? It's impossible to define success or impossible to hit success if you don't define what you're looking for. So I think it's really important. It takes ages to log on, as I said before. Use case of 7 minutes was an average log on time. Nice, easy one to work through. My machine doesn't feel right. The even worse ones, where you get Susie from finance who knows nothing about computers and refused to use one until 5 years ago. And again, that all links up to as well. You've got your support teams dealing with this same myriad of crap language and understanding of these problems, and they're then also struggling with the understanding to help fix these problems. So you've got really, really good, diversity in these things. Why is it still not working? Again, links back to how long it takes to actually get any of these things done. RAM maxing out, machine isn't powerful enough, it keeps freezing, getting faster and faster because this is where we get to. And you get one of your bosses and somebody kicking off about how we actually start to deal with these things. As you can already tell, based on what we've said, we really think the how comes around, and it's about how we start doing these sorts of things. Is digital play experience. Again, lots of different flavours, lots of different people doing different things in the market. As Matt's already covered, to get a bit more use out of this session, I'm going to talk about the use case that I had and how I troubleshooted it and the tools that we used. Everybody has their own flavour and their own bits and bobs of these sorts of tools. Some of these things are even done in tools that weren't DEX solutions years ago, and they just become encompassed as part of that platform. So I've set the scene. So we had an issue, previous company I worked for, COVID times hit. We were a virtual estate, so we primarily ran VMware desktops for everybody. They were persistent, all on-prem, there was absolutely nothing in the cloud. COVID hits, absolutely nobody could hit a VDI. We all know there's technology around there, UAG and stuff, you can use to do that. But we panic bought thousands of laptops so that everybody can work from home and connect to the VMs. Caused a really, really big problem with when people came back to the office and performance. These things were not expensive, they were not well resourced, they were simple 8 gig pieces of Lenovo or Dell. It was literally whatever was cheapest in the market, we just buy another 1,000 and jump at it. And we started to build a lot of really, really big problems there. And one of the first things that started to come around was app packaging. These things were unmanaged. So we've got persistent desktops that are managed, we've got laptops that aren't managed, we've got just this crazy estate. You notice the panic in my voice is already there because it was an absolute nightmare and it led to a lot of really bad decisions and a lot of really bad stuff. And so I think DEX then, more than ever, was really prominent to us. So one of the top things that we dealt with was around vulnerabilities and the impact of them. So have a look at something like Visual Studio. So you can see here, Visual Studio, 175 users using that, right? And we're putting a lot of time. It's a really complex thing to package and test. I know the EUC space sits very, very close with packaging. I've seen companies where that's outsourced. There's been some people that work within it. Both places that I've worked, it's been as part of the end user computing team. So the amount of time it takes to do it, you've got developers that don't want to test, don't want to put things to the sausage machine to the same pace, right? We spend a lot of time working on those sorts of things. And it's the exact same as Greenshot on the right hand side. So Greenshot has vulnerabilities day in, day out, really, really difficult thing to manage. But what we were able to gather by something as simple as software metering that came through the platform is that where do we need to start laying our priorities? What was worth redesigning how we worked with it? What wasn't? Key one here, we now see that Visual Studio has got such a large impact, so that's something we need to redevelop, that's something we want to put time into. Whereas Greenshot, for example, hardly anybody was using the software, but that was part of our task sequence, that was installed as a default image, that's across laptops, that's across virtual estate. We've got literally thousands and thousands of machines, and we're going, why the hell are we dealing with vulnerabilities and trying to patch this software and deploy it out to 8,000 people when nobody's even using it? And a really, really simple, easy way to get that data, and I thought that's what was really happy for us. And sometimes it doesn't show you what you want it to show. You want to decide the app that you spend loads of time on isn't useful. But in this situation, as a Visual Studio, it made us redesign how we packaged it and how we deployed it, and meant that we could just bin off Greenshot. Didn't need to deal with the problem anymore. We move on to that scenario that I was talking about. So we've got physical machines, we've got virtual machines, we've got people working in a hybrid between both. You're doing some things locally, you're doing some things in a virtual machine. Again, it becomes really difficult to manage and really difficult to manage performance when something kicks off. Is it an issue on the virtual machine? Is it an issue on the laptop that you're having? Does the user care? All they see, taking a picture, we connect to VM, all you're getting is this little tab at the top, and they're pressing an icon. They don't understand, they don't know what they're talking about. And I've mentioned a few times today on Teams optimization. That's only available on certain platforms in different ways. If you use it on a physical, of course, it's going to perform at a better capacity than it would on a virtual machine. No, go for it, just jump in. The more the better. That becomes really difficult. And it's also really difficult to get an understanding of that, because different tools can have different impacts on that, such as
so Teams is an interesting one because this is something we were going to cover sort of in the lessons learned piece. But if you're using a VDI solution and you're using Teams or even Zoom or WebEx or anything, typically you're going to have two components. One's going to sit in the VDI machine, one's going to sit in the endpoint, and it's typically going to offload that audio and video to the endpoint. So if you've got a DEX tool that is monitoring just VDI, you've got a problem because you're only seeing half the picture. If you've got a DEX tool that's only monitoring physical, again, you've got a problem because it's only half the picture. So ideally, you want something that's monitoring both physical and virtual, so that if somebody complains, says Teams is running terribly, you've got the view of both components. However, there is also then a third component, which is probably often overlooked, and that would be the performance of the Microsoft element in this, in terms of the Teams platform, or Zoom in terms of the Zoom. So the quality of service of the call. So again, if somebody contacts help desk and says, Teams was terrible, you go into your DEX tool and go, physical was perfect, not from there, VDI was perfect, everything was great. So you almost need that quality of service from the unified communication as well. So Zoom, Teams, they'll offer APIs, they offer points of integration. So, recommendations, if you're looking at a solution, look at something that can also take that feed in from Zoom, from Microsoft, from WebEx, whatever you're using, because then you'll get those 3 points of reference, which you kind of need for that rounded view of, the Teams call was great, or the Zoom call was great, or it was bad, because you've got those 3 things to look at.
And I think that's a great point as well to cover off for the previous slide about software metering. Again, arguments between you've got multiple tools that are all doing the same thing. That's an absolutely fantastic thing to look at. Right now we're dealing with the problem of we want to keep Zoom or we want to keep Teams. Right, okay, well we're not going to pay for both. Right, we need to work out some sort of way to work with that. You've got all that data sitting there, and it's really difficult to justify to the business a change that you believe is the right thing to do. As I'm sure we've all had the problem. This helps you build that data, and I think again this is what we want to try to show is that it's about building those data sources, being able to present that in a really simple way. So talking back to what Matt was talking, so the issue, this was kind of part of our troubleshooting steps that we managed to get to and what the cause was. but we had an issue where everybody was reporting bad VM performance, Teams was always a bad Teams performance, but trying to find the right metrics to help us troubleshoot that became really, really difficult. And where we pulled those data sources from and actually understanding what bad performance meant, it's just a phrase that people were saying. So we started sort of working through. So I mean, one of the really big issues with any DEX solution is the amount of time that it takes to invest in it. Again, Matt's going to talk about later on. But this was something I put in our community channel. It was literally we were seeing I/O spike across all of our hosts again, working on a VMware platform. We're getting loads and loads of people saying the Teams calls are rubbish, RAMs fire through the roof, CPUs. It was almost too much information for me to understand and go, where the hell do you even start with something like this? Other than opening up Task Manager and going, right, let's get the first look. It became really, really difficult. And then even understanding the things to look at, knowing in your own DEX solution the right place to start pulling that data and the right data points for is really, really, really difficult. Especially, I mean, in Omnis's platform is really good, but it's so much data that to be able to start becomes a really, really difficult problem. Luckily, I was able to get that answer, able to pull in some data. So I mean, the screenshot on the right hand side is a little bit difficult. That shows OneDrive, but we're able to pull back through and start doing that for different apps to understand what apps are causing the biggest performance problem. For us, as the last hinted, Teams was a really, really large contention point for us. We put in, basically off the back of that, we were able to start thinking, right, okay, we understand, we've got an avenue to start looking through. We understand that Teams have caused the problem. How do we start visualising that data to say that we need to do some sort of new baselining, or we need to justify, do we need to buy more RAM? Do we need to go have a look at and understand if we need to be offloading better? Do we want to be totally physical? There's so many different things here that start to come in. So we started building through some of these dashboards based on the community help that I was given. So you see again, I apologise, a little bit blurry. Memory consumption by percentage, that became quite difficult to read when you're pulling in the large data sets of machines. So we started to create this dashboard in the middle, so memory performance scores. So you can see quite simply there, there's good, neutral and poor there. You can set up your own statistics as the way you want those to sit, so that you're not just taking vendor-defined ones. You can decide that normal memory usage is between 60 and 70 or whatever you want. So I'd customise these and worked out whatever you want it to be. So you can see there's quite a large chunk of things that aren't good as part of a memory performance score. That for me, even if you're not a tech, to take that to a manager or business feels much simpler to go forward and say, well, look at the pretty colours, and they'll tell you that there's a problem. That's the type of thing. It becomes in here. So this is overall VM performance score. An exact same thing. Purple means bad. It's just a really, really simple thing. Blue is not great. Light blue is much better. And again, we were then able to start correlating, so that there's a part of some off the back of the app software metering, you can also then start picking up specific process and specific apps data. So for us, we're able to see here, again, it's a little bit small, but Microsoft Edge WebView 2, which is, as some people know, that's part of the process that Teams starts to spin off to do certain things. I won't tell you exactly what it does to spin it off, because that will come as last year. But you can see here that was causing major performance impact. And if you've got, as I said before, you've got a bunch of laptops that only run 8 gig and are used as access devices. You've got VMs at a wide range of, you've got some dev VMs, you've got some standard VMs. If you've got something taking up that level of memory usage on one machine at 8 gig, you can already start to see the impact that can start to have. Again, talking about virtual infrastructure and our I/O's been run up high. If what we're seeing is that something's causing more across virtual machines, and you've got 8,000 of them, you start putting that on a shared infrastructure, and you start seeing the difference from what you used to have compared to now. You start building a really, really, really quick picture of how this started to develop and how we're able to use the tools to see and justify something is different here. And when you baseline these things, I can't imagine a quick show of hands who actually does do any baselining of an app. If you're going to put something new in, who actually installs it and sees the impact? No, exactly. It seems to shake your heads. And even if you did do it right, would you go back and do it in a year's time and see how the updates have made it? No, you wouldn't, because you just don't have that. Again, you don't have the tooling. But even if you did, the chance of spending the time behind that probably quite low. It's not going to be at the top of your priority list whatsoever when dealing with these sorts of things. So I was able to take forward a lot of these metrics, and we're able to justify some real work out the Teams who caused a major increase in RAM. When we first spec'd it, was taking up about 300 meg. after 2 years, 700 meg was the lowest RAM usage that we've ever seen for the Teams process across your estate. And that's fair enough, some heavy users, some less so. But that's, if you've got an 8 gig machine again, and you're taking up 700 meg based on just on Teams, that got much worse after new Teams came around as well, despite being optimised in the keyword. And that was because of Copilot. So we were able to start seeing the minute Copilot came in, I just couldn't make that correlation. Again, all this data started to help me build that up and being able to look at those individual processes to understand that WebView 2 one was where